Hey guys, in this video I'm going to explain how to stop the seagulls from ever attacking your crops again so you don't have to worry about them. First though, let's talk about the basics of how the seagulls work in Raft. As long as you have not killed any seagulls, the maximum number that you will see flying in the sky at any given moment is always 2, and that is the same for all difficulty settings in Raft from easy to normal to hard mode. Seagulls will attack your exposed crops. Once they start attacking, you have a total of 15 seconds to get them off before they eat your plant entirely. They will attack anything and eat anything that is planted in a medium crop plot, anything planted in a shoe, and even a small crop plot. Now something to point out is that if you kill a seagull and harvest the body, the game will take 5 to 7 minutes in real time for it to register that it needs to spawn in a second one again. Another thing to point out is that I have never ever seen a seagull eat from a large crop plot when you plant a tree in it. You do have the ability to put down a scarecrow within 6 meters of the crop plot that you are trying to protect. The seagull has a chance of attacking either the crop plot or the scarecrow. While it does work, it's not always the best defense. Now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about protecting your crops. Originally, I thought that if you placed your crops in an enclosed structure, then they would be protected. Take my lighthouse for example. I originally wanted the bottom floor to house my crops. I didn't want to worry about the seagulls attacking them since I was busy doing other stuff on my raft. But after placing watermelons below, the seagulls were quick to attack, which made me really sad. But then I remembered a comment that somebody made on one of my videos a while back. I searched for it, and I found it. And this is what it said. A huge shout out goes to MES. I tested this exact same method. Not only did I find the same results, but I also found out more information that would cause a seagull to attack. So let's go over my testing. For my testing, I decided to make what I call a control. In almost all of my tests, you will notice that I use a 4x4 box. It's one wall high, and the ceiling is a flat floor. I built all of my structures using the renovated look, but you can use the older aesthetic style. Inside, I placed 3 small crop plots as my test. I placed one on the floor, one on the wall that is dead center, and the third I hung from the ceiling. In all of my tests, I will be using the red C's and making sure that the door to the building is always closed. One way in, one way out. But why is this building a control? Well, I waited over an hour in real time and the seagulls never attacked my crops in this building. And here's why. There is nothing on the roof. Nothing at all. No structures. There's nothing surrounding the building. Therefore, I am calling it my control. I should also mention that nowhere else on my raft you will find any plants growing. The only thing that I have are a few random trees here and there. But seagulls cannot target trees. So the next thing I decided to do was build the exact same structure to the right and fill it with flowers. Now, both buildings are going to be filled with flowers, and I wanted to see if I got the same results with 2 buildings going at once. And guess what? It was the same. I waited an hour, and no seagulls attacked either of these buildings. I even built an unconventional, circular shape similar to my lighthouse and waited. And nothing happened. Now that I had a control, it was time to test a bunch of different items that I placed on the roof of the building where I had flowers planted. This is the only building that I had flowers planted in. I tested all sorts of items and structures, from rugs, beds, beehives, chairs, decorative potted plants, smelters, storage boxes, sprinklers, scarecrows. I tested all of these items for 30 minutes each and nothing happened. No attacks. My next step was to start with structures. For this, I put a fence on the top of the roof around the perimeter of the 4x4 with the flowers inside. I waited and waited and waited and nothing happened. Next, I spammed the pillars above the roof and then waited and nothing happened. I also tested putting an empty room above where the flowers were located. Again, no attacks from the seagulls. Surely I thought that this would cause a seagull attack. That empty room that I had above the flowers, I decided to fill with a bunch of random junk. And again, I waited and waited. You can see all the items that I placed inside of here. But guess what? The seagulls never attacked it. So why the heck were they attacking my lighthouse? It was driving me nuts. And then it clicked. I started with a small crop plot. I placed it on the roof of my control room. Now remember guys that I have 3 plots inside with flowers growing. The moment that I turned my back to get some distance after placing those small plots on the roof, the seagulls glitched through and they attacked. They were able to attack everything inside that house. And then I was curious. If they can attack with that small crop plot, then that must mean that if I place down a medium crop plot on the roof, then they can go through structures and attack the flowers below. And sure enough, the moment that I placed down a medium crop plot on the roof of the building and stepped back, I didn't have to wait long. The seagulls were coming down from the sky and attacking my crops. Now remember that there is a grace period in the game in which the seagulls can attack, and that's every 4 minutes in game. Once a seagull has attacked, they cannot attack again until 4 minutes in real time has passed. It was at this point that I started noticing a real pattern. Anything that you could plant stuff in was targetable by seagulls. Take this shoe here, for example, that you get from fishing. You can plant a flower in this if you want to, but for this test, I'm just going to place it on the roof empty. I will place down several on the roof just in case to speed up the process, like what I did with all of the other structures that I tested. Sure enough, the seagulls went through the building as if it were not there, and they attacked. The next thing I tried was a tree plot. Now, seagulls cannot attack a tree plot when you plant a tree in it. But here's the thing, it didn't matter. Putting this down on the roof created what I am going to call a window. It allowed the seagulls to bypass solid structures regardless of how I built that building and eat what was underneath. Something very interesting to point out that triggers a seagull attack is actually grass plots. Yes. Now this might seem bizarre, and it is. Grass plots are only interactable with tameable creatures in the game like llamas, goats, and cluckers, but something in the game file code in Raft for grass plots makes it similar to that of the crop plot structures, making the seagulls able to go through that invisible window and destroy your crops or whatever it is that you have beneath in your structure. In total, there are 5 items that I have found in Raft that trigger a seagull attack even through enclosed structures. You are looking at them right now. Be very careful about placing these items on your raft, and I will explain more about this. They are the shoe from fishing, grass plots for animals, small crop plots, medium crop plots, and yes, large tree plots. And this is why you need to be careful about placing these items near your crops that are in an enclosed building. Take this tree plot here, for example. I'm going to place several of these on the ground level near my building. Inside, I have the red flowers growing. If you place any of those 5 items that I mentioned near your building, the seagulls can still bypass through and attack what you have placed inside. You don't actually have to place those items that I mentioned on the roof if they are in the proximity, even on ground level, near your crops in the building, then your plants will not be safe. All of this was a huge revelation to me, and it got me thinking. This clip here shows me testing 2 buildings, and let me explain them. The building that is on the left, that is my 1 wall high that has my flowers growing inside. But the taller building, the one that's on the right, is 2 walls high. Both rooms, above and below, are enclosed boxes, and they are empty. There is nothing inside that larger building at all. But on the roof of that larger building, I decided to put down some large crop plots. I wanted to see if the seagulls could still go through the other building even though they are not connected. And this is what I found. And yeah, the seagulls were able to attack those flowers. Even though those 2 buildings are not connected, it didn't matter because one of those 5 items was placed in the proximity of the other building, creating that window, allowing the seagulls to bypass structures and go through and eat whatever was underneath. I also conducted that exact same test with grass plots, small plots, and medium plots as well too, and in every circumstance, every single time the seagull was able to go through the smaller building and eat the stuff there. So at this point, I pretty much cracked it. I knew how to keep my crops safe, but I needed to use a real building to test this out. So I decided to go back to my lighthouse that was causing me issues, and I wanted to figure out why it wouldn't work. And guess what? It was so simple. It was because of one of those 5 items. It happened to be my tree plots. I had down several tree plots in the vicinity of the lighthouse, and they were causing issues. One was on the ground level. That one had to go. The other 3 were actually higher up, and I had to remove those too, one at a time. And I found that anything that is over 8 tiles away from the building that I want to keep safe is fine, but anything that's under 8, I had to remove it. So although they're pretty for aesthetics, I had to delete them all. And then I waited. I waited after deleting those 4 tree plots that were going to cause me issues. I waited about 2 hours. Yeah, really, 2 hours in time, and nothing happened. The seagulls never attacked, so I worked it out, and now my lighthouse is safe. No more seagull attacks. My last bit of information to you is this. You can have a variety of different building designs and they will work. Remember guys, seagull proofing your raft is easy, and all you have to do is keep it in an enclosed structure and have none of those 5 items within the vicinity that we've mentioned, and you're fine. But let's take this building here with all the doors. Contrary to what you may believe, this building actually works, but it only works if you put the plots in the dead center of the 4x4. I noticed that if you placed a plot near a door and you left the doors open, then the seagulls could attack the one that was closest to the door, which is why during my test I always left my doors closed to make it consistent and to keep it as a good habit. Another design that does work is a windowed room. You would think that the seagulls would be able to fly through the windows and attack your crops, but using a window wall instead does work. The seagulls cannot attack these crops inside. The one thing I want to point out is just make sure that you always leave your doors closed. This is the last and final room that I want to show you, and this works as well. It's a combination of a windowed room, but you will notice that the ceiling is different. Instead of having a flat ceiling, it is a sloped roof. Now, keep in mind that with the renovation look, you can use the newer look or you can use the older one. It does not matter when it comes to seagull proofing your raft. All of these designs were tested for a very long time, and as long as I keep the door closed to them, they were fine. My wrap-up information to you all is keep your crops in an enclosed house. Look around the proximity of the building that you want to set up and grow your crops, and make sure that you do not have a shoe, a small plot, medium plot, tree plot, or a grass plot in the vicinity or adjacent or on a roof, etc., and you will be fine. You will not have to worry about the seagulls ever again. If you do notice that you have a seagull attack, there's probably one of those things in the area that is triggering the seagulls to come down. So just be on the lookout. I really hope that you all have learned something new. This video has taken me a while to do, and in that time, I sailed and managed to find 2 rare zebra llamas and a rare white goat that I added to my collection. Let me know in the comments below of what you would like for me to test next. Until then, please like, subscribe, hit that bell icon for more notifications of when I upload next. Thank you very much MES for the comment, and thank you Tyrant for helping me test this out. Until then guys, happy rafting and take care.